Hi, everybody. This is Charles Hoskinson live from warm, sunny Colorado, broadcasting live from my beautiful home office. It's a Corona day. As you've seen, the cases have increased. As you've seen, people are starting to quarantine. So I'm spending quite a bit more time on the farm these days. Yesterday, I had a lovely experience where I tried to feed my donkeys and they ran away. And I've learned about how fast donkeys are as I chase them down, trying to get them back into their pens. So these are my days, in addition to dealing with all the duties of being CEO of IOHK. I decided that I would give you guys a little bit more of an AMA because I abruptly ended the other AMA. Out of a bit of frustration, and also I needed to go home. It was late at night, but now I'm here at home and I have nothing but time, and there's no one working at the moment at 9 o'clock. So I figured I'd answer your questions. Also, give you guys a nice request. For those of you in Japan, can you please tweet some pictures of cherry blossoms to me? Usually I'm in Japan this time of year, and I really do miss the blossoming. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'll be there in time to see it myself. And so I'll have to satisfy myself with your pictures. So please do send them to me. All right, now let's get to your questions, huh? Oh, and we wish Prince Albert II well in Monaco. We just heard that he's been diagnosed with coronavirus, but he's a very bright, tough guy, and I assume that he's receiving phenomenal health care, but it's always a concern when someone gets diagnosed with that. Okay. Let's see what you guys got. Hi, Charles. Can you say anything about the potential for Cardano oracles? Probably the most likely way we're going to introduce oracles into Cardano, at least from an official IOHK perspective, as we roll out commercially critical infrastructure, will be to include some form of an oracle feed with the blockchain explorer that we've been constructing. So when you look at a blockchain explorer for something as complicated as Cardano, you can't just rehash what Bitcoin has done, where you construct an explorer that just tracks the movement of assets. The transactions in Cardano are evolving to become significantly more complicated than the transactions with Bitcoin. So you're talking about multiple assets, you're talking about metadata, you're talking about potentially identity information, you're talking about smart contract information, and potentially some regulatory flagging as well. Given that these things can all be embedded within a Cardano transaction once the Goguen era is shipped, and some of it within the Shelley era, you're going to have to build a more sophisticated explorer just to match what you would expect from a normal explorer. But then there's also a smart contract exploring and the voting components, as well as the operational components of the stake pool exploring as well. So we actually have a dedicated product manager specifically just to build explorers, and that dedicated product manager is going to also look into creating a bundling of a Oracle solution so that smart contracts can query that source. It's a good way to bootstrap some basic Oracle functionality as we're getting things started, and then we can look into Chainlink support or support of other Oracle standards. There are many that are flowing up in the DeFi space. And please do let me know if you guys can't hear me or if not. It looks like my mic is working, but it's good to get it from the audience as well. The router is a ASUS router. It's got 8 antennas and Wi-Fi 6. I get amazing routers, but unfortunately the best I can do is 4G internet, so it's like polishing a turd. When Chu, never, because we shipped Shelley. We shipped the incentivized testnet in December. Frankly, it's as good as Shelley if we wanted to launch it today. If we were a normal cryptocurrency, we'd just launch on Rust, and we would have done that in December, and it's stable, 95% network to 99% network stability, 1,100 registered stake pools, about 300 to 400 of them consistently operating. It's actually the most decentralized network around as a testnet, and an overwhelmingly enthusiastic community and weekly updates. So that's Shelley. Because we've chosen evidence-based software, we have to ship on the Haskell side, and that's what's coming. And obviously, it takes a little bit more to bring that to market. But we satisfied that December requirement. We shipped Shelley, and now it's just time to ship the mainnet. And get all those rewards to roll over. But people are making money right now off of it. Are you still going to Antarctica? I missed my window for this year, and unfortunately, because global travel bans, it's not going to happen this year. Next year, I will go. It's a done deal. I don't care what I have to do, and if I die, I die. But Cardano will be done by then, so you guys won't even care. What is your favorite NES game, and why is it Mega Man? I love Mega Man. That was a great game. Actually, my favorite Super Nintendo game was Mega Man X, and that whole Mega Man X series. I really enjoyed it. Killer Instinct was also very good. I played Philgore. But in terms of NES game, Adventure Island was really cool because you had those dinosaurs and you find the different cards, and you have the one that breathes the fire and the blue one that has the electricity tail and so forth. Those were super cool. There aren't any delays right now. Charles, good to see you. However, I'm getting very concerned with all these delays. Calm me down a bit. But we haven't had any delays yet. We've been pretty honest about the deadlines this year. And we told you we'd announce them when we were 100% certain. Stuff is coming out literally every week now. Every single week, there are releases. You can look at it in the wallet backend every 2 weeks, Daedalus every 2 weeks or so, the Node every 2 weeks, just I think release 1.8. The ITN gets updated weekly, and the reboot is coming out imminently, probably in the next 2 weeks. We'll just see what we get out by the end of the month, but there aren't any delays anymore. You guys are just living in a parallel reality. Things are moving in the right direction. What's the quarantine situation like in Colorado? My dad's a doctor. My brother's a doctor. They both practice up in Wyoming, and I'm a bit worried about my dad because he's in his 60s and he's practicing medicine still and refuses not to go to work. He always shows up regardless of the conditions, and he doesn't particularly care if he gets it or not. He feels he has a moral obligation to go to work every day and take care of the sick. And he's in one of those age groups that if they contract it, it's quite serious. But despite that, he still shows up every day. Good news is he's in Gillette, which is a small town of about 50,000 people, give or take. And informally, I think the CDC is estimating that they might lose about 40 people in that town. They only have 15 respirators. They're probably going to need more than 100 if it reaches the curve that the CDC anticipates as worst case scenario. Here in Colorado, it's significantly worse than Denver, but I live outside of Boulder in the Longmont area, and there it's not so bad, but it has definitely a potential to be bad. And it's one of the things where we're just taking it day by day. I'm in a good position, and I doubt that I'm going to be substantially affected personally by it. What breaks my heart is I have a lot of friends and family friends who are losing their jobs or being financially deeply impacted by this. A lot of people I know in the service industry are being deeply impacted by the coronavirus outbreak. Just mass losing their jobs, hours being cut, and the money is just not there anymore. And as you're aware, many people live paycheck to paycheck. So this is the greatest tragedy of coronavirus. It's not the deaths. They'll certainly come, and they'll come in droves. It's the economic calamity that this is causing. In fact, some banking reports are coming through that I've looked at that say that we could see next quarter a 15% global economic contraction as a result of the coronavirus. Entire industry verticals like travel and hospitality are just being devastated. What personally bothers me, though, is that many of these companies never bothered to insulate themselves and create cash reserves. If you look at big companies like Microsoft, Google, Apple, and so forth, they have large cash reserves. Microsoft is in a position, for example, where it literally could make $0 for 2 years and still survive as a company. Apple's in the same position as a company. And somehow the travel industry, they're in a position where if people stop flying for a few weeks, they're close to bankruptcy. Meanwhile, they've done stock buybacks and large executive compensations. And so you tend to wonder about their treasury management and why they've done what they do. If I, as a small business owner, can have better treasury management than a multinational company of hundreds of thousands of employees, there's certainly something wrong with the incentives and the way that these companies are being operated. And it's a bit disturbing to me. Furthermore, there's a lack of resilience in our global supply chains for coronavirus. In particular, we moved from a stockpile economy to a just-in-time economy. So most people were used to the idea of being able to buy something and it shows up tomorrow. So you would just hold as much as you needed and no more, and just when you need it, the new stuff shows up. So this is kind of like the Toyota production system, or this concept of lean production. And in general, that gives you a lot of efficiency. But when you have supply chain disruptions, it can create substantial problems for people. And so we're in the beginning of the economic crisis. Regardless of where Corona is at, there's going to be the next quarter and the quarter after a lot of cascading ripples that will cause very substantial economic damage, unfortunately. So I'm not personally worried about Corona. I've caught much worse diseases in my life that should have killed me, but somehow I survived. But that's the story for a different time. Corona is probably not going to knock me out. It's unfortunately going to damage the economy a lot, and it's going to hurt a lot of good people. Hi, Charles. When can we expect an update from Aparna Jute? The end of the month. We did the first update in February. We'll probably do the next update the last few days of March, and she'll make some announcements then. And it's probably going to be live as well. So I did talk to her today, and she mentioned doing something with Tim and doing it live and bringing in a lot of the other product managers as well. So they'll make an announcement probably next week or somewhere in that time band of when it will be, and hopefully you guys can catch it live. There's probably going to be an opportunity to submit questions beforehand as well. So look for that next week. Is the Haskell-Shelley testnet going to be incentivized? No, because it's not going to run that long. There are two purposes for the Haskell-Shelley testnet. One, to migrate over the ITN infrastructure to the Haskell infrastructure, because there is a material difference between the two systems. And so the stake pool operators that we spend so much time curating and bringing into the system, they need some time to retool so that they can work on the software that's going to the mainnet. And two, to verify that your rewards are transferred properly and to make sure that the end user can actually use the wallet properly. So those are the two flavors of the Haskell testnet. The purpose is not to test the mechanics of staking or the business of staking. So it makes no sense to have that be incentivized. We probably will have some overlap where the ITN will continue running while the Haskell testnet is running, just because it gives people something to do. But it's not going to run for long, the Haskell testnet. It's mainly just to get those two things cleared. So it makes no sense to have that be an incentivized run. There's nothing to gain from that. No one accepts ADA anywhere. That's not true. Tavolo, for example, I can buy airline tickets and hotel rooms, a litany of things. I travel on ADA. So yeah, if I can fly around the world with it, somebody accepts it. Are you currently hiding in a bunker while the world goes to shit? No, I'm on a farm. Welcome, come visit me. Got my donkeys and my chickens and my geese and my horses and my dogs, and feed them every day, grow my own hay. Got a John Deere tractor from the 1980s. I'm never going to leave this place, guys. I'm a rancher by heart, farmer by heart, been in the family for a long time. Are you going to review on Chico Crypto's video about you this morning? Why? Guy's a gadfly. He's a nobody. I recently got kicked off of Twitter. These people burn themselves out. What happens when we ship? What is he going to say then? Oh, we didn't ship fast enough. What happens when we're number 2? and displace Ethereum. But we're still a scam. We have all the functionality. We beat them. I'll go on to something else. I'll never get an apology. You cannot win fighting creatures made out of molten tar. The best you can do is just try to avoid getting the molten tar on you. And generally speaking, you fail in that endeavor. You get it on you, it sticks, it burns, and you can't get it off. Ignore them. Isolate them. Anything you do in life is going to attract people like him. Scumbags who just distort reality and use confirmation bias to present a view of something to address their agenda. They'll just say anything. They'll do anything. This person wasn't born in this country. This thing causes cancer. The latest is 5G is apparently causing coronavirus. Where's the evidence? Oh, well, this one thing happened here. It's a conspiracy theory. And they can show you a picture or a video or take something out of context and go down some road. Like at the birthplace of Cardano, ODCC, Operations, Delivery, Commercialization, Capitalization. So didn't like the way it was capitalized. Okay. Long time ago, but okay. We got some money. We built something. The thing we built is worth considerably more than what people paid for it. So the people who bought it didn't really have a bad deal. And then you say, well, the commercialization, it was supposed to be games, gambling, and everything. So one of the founding entities was interested in focusing on games to start with. That wasn't our focus. It was theirs. That's why they were called Cardano Gaming Group. They pivoted and they said, well, this general purpose platform, let's chase bigger marketplaces. But that was never our commercial strategy. Ours was always Africa. We've been talking about that since my TED Talk in 2014, which predates the Cardano project. Funny how that never works its way into a video, And then operations, the foundation was established for that. And the original principals were terrible at it. So we had to step in and clean up a big mess. This recent lawsuit is a great example of that. These reports provide no substantive value, the ZN reports. They were just industry-wide reports. Okay, they're sponsored. But if you read them and you look at them, where are the protocols? Where's the code? Where's anything that's of use to what we're doing with Cardano? Nothing. Where was anything there that was put into Cardano? Nothing. Let's ignore the 60-some papers we've now written, academic papers that are of massive use and aren't being put in the protocol. Those don't exist. The only thing that exists is the papers written by this one think tank who has to be run by the best friend of the guy who used to run the foundation. The guy who, invited Parsons to go to his wedding and so forth. So there's a commercial dispute, where they said, hey, maybe these don't provide value. Let's walk away from it. But now this is a giant lawsuit that will end the entire ecosystem until it doesn't. Just like the foundation changing management didn't end the ecosystem. Then let's go to the next thing for confirmation bias. It's an endless game. It's a molten tar monster, and he's not going to be the last one. There's hundreds of them. You run into them anytime you try to do anything, change anything. So the best policy is just stick to your guns and your principles and ignore it. Move on. Let them burn themselves out and hopefully go and attach themselves to a different project and burn people to the ground. We're getting to the end of the road here where things are starting to open up and shift, and the community is starting to become resilient and self-sufficient. 2 years ago, almost always, if there was a crisis, I'd have to get involved and do something about it. Now, usually the community just does its own thing, regardless of if I'm around or not. I can go on vacation for a week, and the community's taking care of things. And come June or July or August, somewhere in the coming months, we're going to get to a place where, regardless if you're a holder of ADA, you're a developer of a Cardano platform, an operator, or a person involved in governance, there's going to be stuff for you to do. And that community is the tens, if not hundreds of thousands. I've seen reports as high in the extreme of 1 million. Wherever we're at, the needle just keeps moving and the people just keep growing. And there's more and more people coming in because they like the technology, they like the ideology, they like the product market fit and the jurisdictions that we're pushing into. And they like that we're bringing novel new things into the ecosystem. And we've gotten to a point where you can hate me and think I'm the worst guy in the world, but still find value in Cardano. What does it mean? It means we've succeeded. No cults of personality, and we're decentralizing. And if the molten tar monsters want to come after me and chase me around my farm all day long, if I've done my job right, they can do that and have actually no material impact on Cardano. And I hope we get to that day, and it looks like we're getting there soon. Could IOHK be brought up under the new Defense Production Act? Yes. IOHK and any American company could technically be dragged in under DPA. It's never been litigated in the Supreme Court, and generally speaking, it's a Korean War Act, and so it was meant for production of munitions and manufacturing capacity. So it's gave Truman the power to go to Ford and say, hey, instead of making cars, you'll make tanks. And technically, they could use this to go to pharmaceutical companies and say, make this drug, regardless of the intellectual property or so forth, or make this mask. But I sincerely doubt that they'll come to us and say, hey, your cryptographers have to go do some research. No amount of cryptography is going to solve a virus. Hi, Charles. Could you compare Ouroboros and Algorand's pure proof of stake, especially with respect to fast finality? They're BFT protocols, so they get fast finality. We're probabilistic finality, so we're more like Bitcoin in that respect. But realistically, it doesn't impact anything. After 15 confirmations with Ouroboros Classic, we have practically the same finality that you get from a BFT protocol. That's just a few minutes at a 20-second block time. We can, of course, move that a little bit. If you super care about fast finality, Hydra provides that for free. So we have two options. We get the probabilistic finality that standard proof of stake provides, our proof of stake, and then we get fast finality from the Hydra side, whereas Algorand is taking an opinion on that side. The disadvantage is when you have fast finality, generally you actually have a high latency on your throughput because you have to go through more rounds to settle. Second, you also lose Byzantine resistance. Generally, you're operating under a third instead of a half Byzantine resistance. But in practice, there's really no material difference between the two. You use generally a payment system to do fast settlement, or green addresses to do fast settlement when you're dealing with probabilistic finality. The nodes are consuming more RAM each update, approximately 2.5 gigabytes in the current 8.15. Will Haskell consume less? Yes, much less. It's been profiled for that. Hopefully we'll have some benchmarks for you guys on the reboot, and that's a good indicator where Shelley's going to ship because they share so much code. It's about an 80% code overlap, and they have the same network design. So the Haskell side is not a big consumer of that. The reason why you see high resource utilization, CPU and network and RAM for the Jormungandr node is almost always because of a misoptimization or a space leak or a certain defect as a consequence of the high velocity. And generally what happens is they fix those things iteratively. So we've had many cases of network spikes and CPU spikes and other things that occasionally crop up and crop down. You have to have a trade-off somewhere in your development profile. So if you're optimizing around fast turnaround, meaning every week you push something out to the user, it means you don't have a long enough time to have an independent QA cycle, meaning that people who aren't the developers are testing and running it, examining it, and coming back and working with the developers to correct defects they find within their test suite. And also they're rapidly changing things all the time. So it's hard to create a stable test suite. It's almost like a virus that mutates all the time. It's really hard to create a vaccine for it, right? So similarly, it's hard to create proper profiling when you keep changing things so quickly. On the other hand, you can fix stuff really quickly. So if you don't like 8.15, maybe 8.16 actually solves your problem for you. And then there's a regression in 8.17, but you get a new cool feature, or it fixes another bug that you were worried about. The point of Jormungandr and Cardano Rust was not stability, and it was not a end product. It was to test the user experience of staking and allow us to saturate up a large amount of stake pools under real economic conditions. And that's mission accomplished by far. 1,100 plus registered stake pools and over 300-400 of them operating pretty regularly. And actually with our exercise with stake pool introductions, we're actually seeing a lot of them make videos now, which is super exciting as well. Keep those videos coming. As an unintended consequence, because Vincent and his guys are just perfectionists, we do see actually a lot more stability and bug fixing with the ITN. So if they were given, a few months of free reign and the protocol stabilized a bit, client stabilized a bit, we'd probably see a high amount of optimization, and probably would be the case that the Rust code would use less memory and CPU than the Haskell code, because it's a lower level language and there's more control of those optimizations. Wouldn't always be the case. I mean, use linear types with Haskell, you probably could get somewhat equivalent performance, but that's not quite in scope or supported yet. Should be touching your face, man. I haven't left my ranch today, and everything's been sterilized here. It's like the one place I can touch my face. If I was going to get it from my own ranch, I'd get it here. I think I have a better chance of catching anthrax from sheep wool than I do COVID here. Favorite color, black. Miners in Bitcoin are less public. Will publicizing stake pool operators be a downside for Cardano? Is there a physical risk for them being known? If they're worried about it, then they don't really have to dox themselves, and they don't even have to de-anonymize themselves. They can even just create an online alias like Satoshi did and operate with that, have a public reputation around it, but nobody actually knows who the underlying pool is. This is a humongous advantage of proof of stake over proof of work. You have a virtual resource instead of a physical resource, which means that virtual resource is ephemeral. It can travel anywhere in the world, any country in the world. So if there's a big crackdown, let's say in China, on that operation model, all those Chinese origin virtual pools can move to Vietnam or Thailand or somewhere else and exist basically without disruption. Whereas physical assets, if there's a crackdown, you can't pick the miners up and move them. It's very difficult to do that for large scale operations. So generally speaking, what they do when they crack down is they go and seize the assets. And so you just can't get that hash power back. And those supply chains can also be disrupted. Let's see what else you guys got. Will Haskell students from IOHK's Africa classes be participating in the Haskell Chile testnet? They're actually working for IOHK. They're not just participating. In many cases, they're writing code or doing various tasks for it. I think we hired about a quarter to 30% of the class, and some of them took jobs elsewhere, but we absorbed as much as we could. Yeah, they're doing work for us, and one of them even works for our director of cybersecurity, Charles Morgan, doing InfoSec work, which was quite surprising to me because that's so highly specialized. But it was just a joy running that class, and I'm very proud of Polina and Lars for going and living in Ethiopia for as long as they did, and doing great work. And I'm very proud of the girls for what they were able to put in. We don't talk about them enough. They should do stuff. They should write blog posts and do videos and so forth. It'd be cool to have them interviewed on the Cardano effect and talk about the things they're doing with IOHK. Will Cardano ever work with Chainlink? I have no problem with working with Chainlink. I'd love to do something with them at some point. It's just one of the things we have to get around to. Right now, we're focused on more foundational infrastructure, but we're building our way up the stack, and we'll get to the Oracle side at some point, as well as the stablecoin side at some point. Hopefully, as quickly as we can. In a lot of cases, we can do things in parallel. Charles, can Cardano work on a voting app to get millennials and younger actual vote? It needs to be on a blockchain. They're canceling primaries. In the 2020, They're canceling primaries and Democratic events because they don't want people to aggregate together. Why in God's name aren't we voting online? Blockchains are the way to go. I know Ed Felton and these other guys are like, oh, e-voting is a bad deal. Grow up, get up with the times. E-voting is more secure than these aggregate voting and manual paper counting things because you get higher participation. So even if you have a higher local fraud rate, you get more physical people voting who have different configurations, and overall you get a better representative sample and an easier, lower cost sample of your population. So I think e-voting is the way to go, and blockchain is actually the way to do that. It's so conceptually simple. You issue an asset that it represents a voting token. You have DIDs to register people. There's all kinds of ways to create a root of trust and register people easily on a cryptocurrency. And the whole point of a blockchain is to account an asset, right? A vote token is easy as to count as an ERC20. And then your ballots are just addresses, and you send them there. You say, oh my God, but what about the privacy of the ballot? Then institute a Zcash style privacy scheme, and you have completely private elections. There's tons of ways to put voting protocols on. We've invented them, El Gamal and somewhat homomorphic encryption, and we're actually putting those into Cardano. And it's really sad that I, as a small company in Wyoming, can build a better voting system than the United States uses as a country, or for that matter, any country uses. What the hell is up with that, guys? Ask for better democracy. What do I think about the simulation hypothesis? I don't believe it, and if it is true, does it matter? Why is David Esser no longer employed with the organization? He moved on. We mutually decided that we could perhaps run the project a bit better with different management. As you guys are aware, we've had historic issues with expectation management and meeting deadlines and getting a proper, clear product vision to be articulated and developed and deployed. And that took a very special skill set, and not everybody has that skill set for this industry. And I have the utmost confidence in Aparna, and I have the utmost confidence in our current product team. And the last 6 months have been a phenomenal demonstration of their velocity and capabilities. And I'm very hopeful for this year. It takes a long time to find the right people. And it's not a dig on those people who didn't quite make it through. It's just not everybody's cut out to work in certain industries or work with certain product types and in certain environments. And they have to move on to brighter horizons. Did make some good contributions, and certainly a great articulate guy. And we wish him well. And we really do hope that his talents can be better utilized elsewhere. That said, the people we do have right now are quite good. See, I don't hide from questions, and I'm here always to call a spade a spade. This is a very difficult business, and there's a lot of tough choices you have to make and tough things you have to do. And we have had to make a lot of tough choices as a project. We've had to make a lot of tough choices as an ecosystem, and including Bitcoin itself. And you lose some good people along the way. The guy I miss more than anybody else is Mike Hearn. Good friend. He was a wonderful human being, worked at Google, and this guy created the Bitcoin Java client. He used to send emails to Satoshi, and he rage quit over the block debate, never to look back. We should not have lost him in the Bitcoin space, but we did. Aloha Cardano. I was born in Hawaii, on Maui. Aloha. Mahalo. We're a little town called Makua, for your Charles trivia. They had this great place called Komodo's Donuts, run by some Filipinos in downtown Makua. It's this very small town, old town Makua. And I'd go every morning at 6 a.m., pick up those donuts. They'd sell them all out by 7. And the guy refused to make more. He's like, as soon as he sold, I said, all right, I'm going to go fishing. A very Filipino way of thinking. Yeah, I love art. That's a Waterhouse, and that's a Gustav Klimt, and that's a Jean-Léon Gérôme. This is a good one. What is your largest stock holding in a publicly traded company? I don't own any equity. Like many of people in my age group, I actually hold two assets, crypto and cash. That's it. I don't have any bonds. I don't have any stock. I don't have any gold, any of these things. I just hold crypto and US dollars. That's pretty much it. Not a little bit of euros, from these types of things. But I don't really believe in the current stock market. And I don't really like the way Wall Street operates. And I just couldn't imagine giving them my money. At some point I'll diversify and hedge and set up a trust. And there's all kinds of ways that you can create cash positive flows, income flows that don't require you to go kowtow to buying Microsoft stock or Apple stock. I mean, it's just basically legalized gambling at this point, and it's not rational. Why should Microsoft share value go down like 30% when a global pandemic happens? Guys, their private products are mostly digital, and the foundations of that company are sound. Makes no sense at all. But hey, let's just do it, because why not? Corona. Will IOHK going to be a publicly traded company someday? If we could do a security token, probably. Be cool to do that. That'd be fun. And then we'd be like this science and engineering asset, and you'd be buying an ETF on that entire industry. So maybe 5 years, who knows? Charles, the whole DeFi thing on Ethereum is becoming a joke now. What do you think of the recent MakerDAO issue? It's hard to do this stuff. I keep saying over and over again, nobody seems to really pay attention because they're so focused on the short term. It works until it doesn't. My encryption scheme works until it doesn't. My consensus protocol works until it doesn't. My DeFi app works until it doesn't. Look at all the money we're making. Look how successful we are. Look at our 1 million users. Move fast and break things. Then it breaks. Oh, well, we have no liability. Screw the users. Who cares if they lose all their money? Not my problem. Risky, do your own research. It's an experimental economy. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, and we'll fix it better next time by temporarily introducing heavy amounts of centralization. That's where we're at. That's what these people do. Meanwhile, we guys in the research side, we're just like, let's try to actually do it right for the first time so you don't lose all your money when it blows up in your face. Because we have a moral obligation to build right products. And they say, oh, how dare you delay for so long? You're a scammer. You're a horrible human being. Delay, 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 delay. So how can you win? Either we blow it up in your face with a substandard product, or we take the time to build it and they get brutally criticized the entire time we're building it. And then when we release it, everybody like a fucking goldfish forgets about it, moves on to something else to complain about. You have to look at a long-term horizon, and you have to have principles. If you're talking about people's money, their property, their identity, their privacy, you're talking about things that are very meaningful to people. They have to be built on stable foundations, and you have to have some evidence that what you're doing works. And if your evidence is we're going to just experiment, that's fine when the people you're experimenting with are wealthy people and there's not a lot of them. That's not okay when the people you're experimenting with are retail investors with their life savings and there's a lot of them and you're creating existential risk and they believe that they're getting involved in something that's flawless. Expectation management really matters a lot. And this just keeps happening in this industry over and over and over and over again. But you get what you pay for. And as long as there's money to be made, people will do this. And as long as you criticize guys like us who are trying to build things on solid foundations, you get less people trying to do that, more people chasing the fast money. Get what you pay for. Hi, Charles. If the coronavirus was to take you, is there someone with your driving vision to take over? Yes, we have some great people. Romain, Tamara Hassan, Jer Moroni, Aparna. We have a very deep bench at IOHK. And if I was to die, product would get done. The vision's completely there. We have clear marching orders into the end of Cardano for our contract and for where we want to take it. And we have a great ecosystem, so I'm not worried at all. And if Lassa fever couldn't kill me, I don't think Corona is going to kill me. Yeah, everybody is. One hell of a woman. Do we need to decentralize GitHub? Git is already decentralized, and it would be very easy to layer that into a blockchain structure. Please respond to the U.S. Senate bill imposed to outlaw encryption. I think that's equivalent to the ability to outlaw gravity or to change pi to 3. I mean, people can certainly say stuff and try to do things, but you cannot enforce something as crazy as outlawing encryption. It's like, how would the internet even work? SSL is now illegal. You have to have certificate authorities put a man-in-the-middle attack for every single website. The U.S. government can enforce that. It's old people who have no clue how the internet works or technology works, playing and fiddling with things. And they should be in diapers instead of voting. You always wonder who should be taken by corona. Can you jump in and out of staking without penalty for Cardano? Yes. How's your dog Nolly doing? Very well. We have 4 dogs. Nolly's the one you tend to see on Twitter because she likes sitting up on the hill and gazing over the distance with the Long's Peak in the distance. Fake ass fireplace. Yes, it's a heater. It's snowing outside. You people. Oh my God. It's like, okay. And that's not an original Pink Floyd poster, too. This is great. How often do you brush your teeth? Once a day. Will you ever shave your hair? When the hairline gets far enough back, I may actually consider it. I don't know. I think I look weird with a bald head. Patrick Stewart really opened that door for us, so we have to thank him for it. Us bald-headed guy, all the men on my mom's side, they all go bald, and so I'm destined to have that happen. Why don't you sue Chico Crypto for defamation? Because I'll win, but it'll take 2 years to win. And then what the fuck am I going to get from him? Meanwhile, the tar monster will get on me the entire time I'm doing it. And then what? I'll get an apology? No. You don't fight tar monsters. You put them deep in caves and you seal the cave. And you hope that no one's spelunking. By the way, we're never going to call him Chico anymore. We're going to call him Tar Monster 1. No, he doesn't even get to be Tar Monster 1. He's going to be Tar Monster 3. And I'll find 2 other Tar Monsters that I value more than him. So please refer to him now for his Tar Monster number 3. If you ever see him on Twitter. Oh, he was banned from Twitter. Oh, I'm so sorry. Going the way of the Alex Jones. Well, if you ever see him anywhere, just refer to him as Tar Monster number 3. When will we see another IOHK conference? We're going to do a virtual conference for the launch of Shelley, and I did a video yesterday about that. So please do see that video on my channel, and hopefully we'll be able to make an announcement soon about the parameters of that conference and what platform we're going to use. I'd love to have it as a VR experience. That'd be super cool. And I'd love to have avatars and all these other things. You know, maybe just like a video game or something, just some place where people can actually communicate with each other and get to see each other. That'd be pretty cool. Molten Tar Monster coin. Ah, I love that. Oh, timeline for ledger integration. I believe the foundation selected Vacuum Labs as their integrator. And so I think unofficially the integration time's around 10 weeks. I haven't seen the contract yet, and they haven't made the announcement yet, but that's what I heard through the grapevine. But it makes sense from the meta layer integration that we did before. So that should come in, and I believe the contract includes cold staking and multi-sig support for Ledger. On the Daedalus side and the wallet backend side, we have everything we need for Ledger support. So when Shelley ships, we'll actually have a Ledger option along with a new way of doing paper wallets. Are you still taking it from Richard Hart occasionally? Richard gives it to everybody. He seems to be a decent guy. I mean, he's pretty full of himself, but for the most part, he's just a crypto guy. It's the same for Simon Dixon. Every now and then he picks on us, but he picks on a lot of people. So it's not like Molten Tar Monster number 3, who's just got like this crazy heart on for us. Crazy, like molten rage. That's what keeps the tar warm. It's the rage. Do you still think that ADA could hit $1 trillion market cap? Well, it's one of my most misquoted statements. I say I want ADA to be $1 trillion, and I explained in like 5-minute rant, rambling on and on of what that actually means. Watch the video, and I give a clear explanation of it. And I believe if we deliver what we're going to deliver and get the adoption we'd like to get, yeah, it should be there. It's going to change the whole world. How did the New Balance trial go? Pretty well, actually, all things considered. We're right now trying to re-up that and get them to expand it to more product lines. It was a pilot. It was quite a successful pilot. We didn't make a lot of money on it because of the Tangem cards consume most of the fees there. But it was a great way to actually look at a hardware product combined with a software product combined with a physical product and put them all together at the end of the supply chain. So it was a great proof of concept, and it was really fun working with New Balance. We actually built a cool cell phone app and everything. And we'll see what we'll see what we can keep pushing out with that relationship. It'd be fun to keep extending it. Hi, Charles. Why would any stake pool operator switch from the ITN to the non-incentivized? Because they can do both in parallel. You don't have to shut your ITN stuff down. You're just redeploying your things in anticipation. And if you don't do it, then your competitors who do it will take all of your customers when the mainnet switches on not too long later. So you have a small window of time to maintain your brand reputation and customer base. So I think that's a pretty good incentive. But if you don't think so, well, I'm sure there's somebody who disagrees that wants your customers. FCV, I'm not too good to listen to you, but you comment on every one of these videos, 2 cents, 2 cents, 2 cents. You're a fucking troll, man. If you want me to respect you, reply to you, actually interact with you, behave like an adult, not a child. There's a collection of weird people, Into the Abyss, Carlito's Way, and a few others who consistently comment on every video I make, and for some reason, they just really love saying hurtful, untrue, or negative things about our ecosystem. Why do you even care? Why are you here? What's your point? Do you just like get up in your mom's basement and say, wow, I just can't wait to shitpost something today? What's the point? What's your upside? You're not going to make any money from it. You're not getting any friends from it. And you're going to look like a jackass and an idiot when Shelly ships. And then what are you going to say? I was wrong. I'm sorry. No, you never get an apology. So maybe you're competing for Molten Tar Monster number 1 or 2. I don't know. We should have the Molten Tar Monster Awards. We'll call them the Multis. Charles, I just got into leatherworking. Do you have any small hobbies that relax you? Yes, I do a lot of gardening these days, and I showed you guys my garden. I collect art. I trying to get into drawing and painting, but I just haven't really had the time. But lately, I think I'll be able to do that. Obviously, I run a farm, and that consumes a lot of time as well. I used to build watches. That was a lot of fun. I have a whole horological set, and so I can actually take a watch apart, take a movement apart, even fabricate components if I wanted to. I read a lot. Used to write a lot as well. So I have a lot of hobbies. It's just being a CEO, you just generally don't have a lot of time, and there's a lot of context shifting. Just when you get into something, you have a fire you have to put out, and that's just the way it is. Binance will delist Cardano, and Coinbase CEO say they will not list this scam. Short ADA. Okay, I'll wait for the email from CZ. Oh my God! See comments like this. There's a lot of contenders for the multis. Tone Vays is Tar Baby number 2. You know, we can't say Tar Baby. That one's not PC. Don't say that. No, Molten Tar Monster. It's not a racial thing. It's an actual monster made out of molten tar. And the point is that when you fight them, you get the tar on you and it burns you. You know, that's the visual that we should be having. Don't go down that other way. That's very bad. It's almost as bad as Trump going around and saying, "We got Kung Flu." It's like, oh God. Can you hold one press conference without saying something to piss somebody off? That's an interesting question. So, hi, does IOHK still plan to limit the amount of registered stake pools to 1,000 come the mainnet launch? Yeah, a K at 1,000 is probably a reasonable launching point because that's what we got from the ITN. The hope is that we can use the update parameter system that we're going to deploy with Voltaire to be able to change that and other protocol parameters like transaction fees, and so forth. But it would be really cool to have a feedback loop where, based on network conditions themselves, the amount of the K parameter can contract or expand. So that'd be a lot of fun. But it's kind of complicated to do that. So it's probably better to leave it to a voting system to update the K parameter. But 1,000 is a very good starting point. And what's nice is that the system maintains performance regardless of how large K gets. It's very performant within reason. Scalp micropigmentation will look super cool on you, man. Try it out. You won't regret it. All right, I'll give it. I'll buy it. I'll look it up. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, but why not? All right, SFWL. I'll stop talking about molten tar monsters if you ask me a good question. So, ball is in your court. Please do ask a good question, and I will attempt to answer it. Would Cardano be able to scale to 50,000 TPS? Yes, but we need to redesign, reimagine what we mean by the transaction, and hopefully we'll get some content out to elucidate that a bit more. Does Vitalik have something up the sleeve to blow ADA out of the water? No, he never has. Everything he has, he's already announced. He's already blown his load. And he's just trying to keep it all together. And I have a lot of respect for how hard they're working and what they're doing. But honestly, their tech is not where it needs to be. And even if they have something, they have to change the tires on a car that's driving. Upgrading the F2 is going to be a nightmare for them. And it's going to be very, very time consuming and very difficult. And they're not going to get what they want immediately, which gives me a lot of time to roll something out that's better. Also, he seems to really hate blockchain-based governance, on-chain-based governance. I think it's a humongous strategic mistake. And the lack of a treasury is going to be an existential problem for Ethereum. What did you talk about with William Shatner at Davos? Trick question, Fujimoto. William Shatner was not in Davos. He was in Mexico. And we mostly talked about horses, but we did talk a little bit about crypto. 88 years old, brilliant guy. Although I have a great moment. I told him, I said, Bill, you have to be a bit careful about our industry. It's got a lot of fair weather people that tend to cling on to you. And William Shatner looked at me and he said, I hate Klingons. 88 years old. He's that fast. He's a great guy. And I had the time of my life having dinner with him. It was a kind of a dream come true. Is IOHK producing any dApps to launch alongside Goguen? Yes, with partners. Can't build the Xbox without launch applications, so we'll have some. What do you think about Trump giving away money? This is his opportunity. It's like if he could just get out of his own head, he could have so many political wins. Like he just call up Andrew Yang and be like, "Yang Gang, it's time. UBI, let's go," and get that whole line of people in, and then like the Democrats' minds would explode. They wouldn't know what to do with that. And of course, Andrew Yang would say yes. He'd be like, "Yeah, see, yeah, this was the point all along. UBI, let's do it. Freedom dividend." But they won't do it. Makes me sad. I want to see that experiment run. How do you secure your own crypto assets? Multi-sig cold storage and safety deposit boxes. Never actually have them where you live, and never put them in places that are easy to access. And if you have to have a custodian, have an insured one that's regulated. Are there any surprise partnerships that'll be announced when Shelley is released? Well, if I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. Think about it. When return to academia and finish a PhD? Well, I'd have to pick a subject first. Might go back into mathematics to study analytic number theory. Wasn't any good at it. Never solved anything of prominence. It would be fun to do computational logic this time around. If I retire, I'd do that. That'd be a lot of fun. And I'd probably do something with homotopy type theory. And I think I could make some meaningful waves there because I could apply all the things I've learned here. So maybe if I do the QAditas project, I could go in under that, but it wouldn't be for a while. I'd have to retire for that. You really have to be serious to pursue a PhD. It's a lot of work, and you have to be passionate about what you do. We produce so much scientific output that it's like 10 PhDs worth of it. In fact, people have done their whole dissertations on a small Cardano project, like Colin, for example, or Dionysius Zindros, or Thomas Kilber, or others. They're literally getting their PhDs working on this product, and it's an overwhelming amount of research. Why are some against treasuries? Because they're stupid. I don't have any other explanation for it. If you say it's okay to use inflation to pay to secure your system, but not okay to use inflation to pay to build your system and maintain the system and create adoption of your system, then you're not really understanding economics at a basic level. Think IOTA will make it? Well, if a centralized entity can shut your cryptocurrency down, it's not a cryptocurrency, is it? How will ADA change the legal industry? By creating a legal DSL. That's going to be a fun one. We'll talk about that later. Any recommended philosophy reading? In times like these, probably logotherapy, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. Nice, light philosophy, but it gives you a sense that no matter how bad things get, it can certainly get worse. And the search for meaning is a very core thing. If you're really interested in something fun, Albert Camus is also a great writer. The absurdism of things, and the story of Sisyphus. It's one of my favorite. Is ADA security? No, not even close. Come on, talk about the DSL. Well, now you want to know about it, don't you? Yeah. Now, if I talked about it, Molten Tar Monster number 3 would say something about it. Then we get Molten Tar Monster number 4, the multis. Why is Crypto Crow's website so weak? I would not call Crypto Crow weak. You can call that man many things, but like a 300-pound, 7-foot tall man who used to be called the Tower of Pain, who's got kicks that can shatter legs, is not a weak man. He can rip you in half. I guarantee that. He's a scary, scary man if you actually see him in person. Where do you get your lion's head? No, it's lion's mane mushrooms, and I get them from Stamets. I'm going to grow them here, though, in Colorado. Where did your economics knowledge come from? Ooh, that's a good one. I probably read a blog post about that and give you guys some book recommendations. But there's some good books like David Graeber's Debt, First 5,000 Years, The Social Life of Money. There's a nice book from Niall Ferguson called The Ascent of Money. And then there's certainly canonical things like things from Ludwig von Mises and Hayek, especially the things they wrote on private monies are quite interesting to read about. But you have to understand wealth and economics, they're ultimately social phenomena. They're the study of scarcity and how human beings react to scarcity. And they build social structures to manage scarcity and what emerges from that. And ultimately, I think that complexity theory is going to end up becoming the bedrock of economic analysis in the 21st century, mostly because what complexity theory does very well is they can find these simple rules that, when applied in aggregate, form complex systems. And economies are basically that. You have simple interactions between people, information deficits, and then you basically run a model, and the model evolves and grows, and then eventually the model forms something. And that can be sand dunes, it can be ecosystems like the rainforest, it can be evolution, it can be economies. And a lot of cases where they've gotten it right with complexity theory, the economic modeling that they've done has been very, very powerful. It's predicted crises, it's shown when recessions are going to happen, and so forth. I think that there is a bit of too much effort for people to cling to things like only gold is real money. It's like, why is gold any better than silver or platinum or diamonds or anything like that? It's like, okay, it's scarce, right? You can't create it out of thin air, right? There's plenty of materials that have that, but also it provides no material real value or utility to you, whereas food does do something, right? So, you have to really start asking thought experiments and say, what makes good money? Is it the durability? Is it the fungibility of the asset? Do you need fungibility? They used to use tea as money. There's a great series I took on the great courses on banking, and it's 24 lectures that they did, and they actually had the third or fourth lecture in this brick of tea from the 15th century where you could actually break off units and pay people with it, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But why not? Anything really can make money. In fact, prison camps during World War II, Stalag 8, I think. Can't remember the Stalag number, but there was an economist who was in prison, so he did what all economists do. He wrote papers about it, and he modeled the prison economy and found out that cigarettes were the unit of account. And the richest man in the camp was a Sicilian priest who was very good at trading. So we'll write a blog post about that. What do you think of Warren Buffett's take on cryptocurrency having no value? Do not ask an 80-year-old man who's made his money from the old system what he thinks of the new system. You're never going to get a good answer of that. The best case scenario is you're going to get, I don't understand it, but more likely than not, you'll get an inaccurate answer. There's a reason why these people retire. They are brilliant for their time, and they're masters of their domains, but their domains change, and the markets outgrow them, and they have to move on. Even Bill Gates has left Microsoft, and Buffett's time has come. Is gold not good for engineering? Sure it is. There's plenty of industrial and non-industrial uses for it, but silver is an even better industrial metal. So why is it not more valuable? There's more of it, and it's also antibacterial. You ever hear of colloidal silver? Gold is non-reactive. They put it in food, it doesn't do anything. You can put it in alcohol, it's Goldschlager. Is inflation essential for growing economy? Well, if you have population growth, you're probably going to have some form of inflation. Does it really matter? Hey, man, great time for an AMA. Cheers from Startup Agro Brazil. Well, obrigado. We love you guys in Brazil. And thank you so much for putting the American flag on the statue out there, along with everybody else, as a sign of solidarity for the coronavirus. These are tough times, and it's really good to see people taking things, even small gestures, to remind that we're all one global community and we're all in this together. Appreciate it. It means a lot to me. What's your favorite cocktail? Well, obviously White Russian. Come on, Lebowski. Charles, how long do you see yourself being with IOHK? I own 100% of IOHK. There's no notion of seeing myself being with them. I own it. It's my company. So at this point, I can be with it as long as I want. It's like, will Charles be fired from IOHK? When will IOHK get rid of Charles? It's like, good luck with that. I can hold a board meeting. What is your favorite movie? I have many, but probably There Will Be Blood was the best acted, best produced movie. Absolutely amazing cinematography. I really enjoyed The Fountain. That was a great movie too. Darren Aronofsky is just a genius, especially on the visual side. And there's certainly a million different things. It just depends on the mood and what you want to say. I hear Mexico wants Trump to hurry up with the wall. That's great. That's a funny one. Come on, guys, give me something good here. Charles, do you like cats? I have two of them, but they're barn cats, and they are used for mousing. I grew up with cats. My parents love cats. I've never been a big cat guy. I don't like animals that shit in boxes and make you have to clean them up. I prefer animals that go outside. When you have a farm, you don't have to do much. They're self-sufficient. Also, I like animals that when you call them, they come to you. Cats don't do that. Most cats don't. What was Ravenshore? Well, that's another interesting one. Ravenshore was a corporation I set up in Colorado, actually named after a game. Might Magic 8 had a town in it called Ravenshore. It's a blast from the past there, Fujimoto. Charles Hoskinson, you didn't comment on Gödel's incompleteness. Well, Gödel's incompleteness theorem is an established thing from the 1930s. There's not much more to say about it. You know, we can talk about Gödel encodings if you want. You know, there was a great quest with David Hilbert and Bertrand Russell and Alfred North Whitehead and all these other prominent mathematicians in the 19th and early 20th century, where they were basically trying to rebuild all of mathematics on a completely formal foundation where all proofs could be basically deduced through a series of computations. So they were really looking for an abstract machine that you could encode a proof as well-formed formulas, put it through, and then it would spit out an answer, whether your formula was true or false based on the axioms of the system. It turns out that you can't do that, you know, because your system's not complete. And Gödel proved that by showing that you had this inductive nature with the axioms of mathematics. So the minute that you had them, you'd always need another one. And he did this beautiful proof to show that, which was quite prominent. But it did lead to this concept of recursive functions that is equivalent to Turing machines and lambda calculus. And so as a consequence, it actually created the foundations of computation for computer science. So there was a great outcome from that research. And Turing machines kind of killed at least the question of decidability. Can you make a decision whether something is true or false or undecidable? And the answer for that is no, you can't. So Hilbert's entire agenda fell apart, but it did create computer science. So you can't really complain of that outcome. And actually, it's the nature of research. That's really the cool thing, where mathematicians were trying to formalize and systematize their systems in such a way that everything could be computable. And in the process of doing that, it kind of failed, but then it led to a whole new field of science that revolutionized all of mankind and gave us all the things we've come to know and love today. So even if you don't accomplish your primary goal, if you're smart about it, you can create wonderful secondary goals. And there's certainly a lot of fun books that have been written on it. And it's entered popular culture, and Gödel's incompleteness theorem has percolated in every single realm of thought, from can a strong AI exist to does infinity exist, or things like that. And I think that's just a lot of philosophers pretending to be mathematicians. Do miss math. Will you ever change the name of IOHK since it isn't based in Hong Kong anymore? Technically, we already have. The Wyoming company is called Input Output Global, IOHK is a subsidiary of it. So I am the owner and CEO of IOG, IOG. We even own the domain name for it. One of these days, we'll rebrand. Just haven't gotten around to it. Heroes of Might and Magic 3, did you ever play it? Like hell I played Heroes of Might and Magic. You fucking did too. We all did. John Van Craighaven, man. Fucking 3DO, man. New World Computing, man. This just Arathia, right? Come on. It was an amazing game for its time. Masterpiece in game design and engineering. And obviously the Tower Town was the one to play. And then when the Conflux came out, because of the Phoenix advantage, that was always fun. But yes, that was a great game. And it was such a shame that New World Computing ran out of money when they were making Heroes of Might and Magic 4, because it was on track to be just as good. And it was such a beautiful game. It had a great soundtrack, but it just didn't have the money to finish it. And of course, Might and Magic 9 was a disaster because of that. Really sad. And apparently, Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is like super popular in Russia, and there's still a huge community there. Charles, do you ever think math will ever be formally proven to be wrong conceptually? No, because math is just a derivation from axioms that you set. So it's not a question of is it wrong or right. There's a question of is it useful, and are those axioms self-consistent? And the axioms of math are independent and self-consistent with the way that we've constructed the ZFC set theory. There's no notion of being wrong. Now, you can have philosophical debates. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is to watch videos from this mathematician on YouTube who's like completely convinced that our notion of infinity as mathematicians is wrong. What is his name? It'll come to me in a moment. But God, he's actually a proper mathematician. He did Lie algebras and went to Yale, and he makes these great videos. And he's done some very good pedagogical work, especially in talking about Babylonian mathematics. So Babylonians use a base 60 system. So this is actually one of their cuneiform tablets, and this is a calculation table for how base 60 works. So it's we use base 10, and there's counts all the way up to 60, and then wraps. around, so you have to use a different way of doing calculations. But if you're ever curious on how that works and how to read these little things on the tablets, then go to his videos. And again, the name will come to me in a minute. I just can't remember at the moment. But no, math is independent and consistent. It's perfectly fine. And yes, it is one hell of a router. Are you still planning to fly for the Shelly release celebration? If they let me, I will fly to Kyoto. But that's if they let me. What do you think about Rachmaninoff? Wonderful, wonderful composer. And actually, he got into this crippling depression, and somehow hypnotherapy cured him. And then he went on to do much, much more in the music world. I've played a few of his pieces, and they're just a lot of fun. And what's nice about it is because it was almost like a hybrid between Liszt and Chopin. Liszt is virtuoso, and just pure virtuoso, totally embedded there. And Chopin is like all soul, and just all emotion, pure emotion, like dying of tuberculosis while his girlfriend's cheating on him with his best friend. And Liszt is all like, I'm the man, I can do anything. I play 12th intervals super fast, whatever. But when you put them together, you actually have Rachmaninoff. He's a little bit of everything, and just a brilliant guy. What is an axiom? It's something we assume to be true without proof. Art Tatum for jazz. Remember, do not refer to him as Chico. You have to refer to him as Molten Tar Monster number 3, Mr. Brinker. Favorite Tom Petty song? Come on, Into the Great Wide Open. That's the one. Although the markets really did push Free Falling on us, didn't they? But we do love American Girls. We want to hear about quantum resistance. It's overrated, easy to do, and when the time comes, we can pull it in. Not necessary today. It's like much ado about nothing. That's the Y2K of our industry. Get it out of your mind. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. It's not a problem. It's a nothing burger. People keep making it a problem, mostly because they have something they want to sell you, or they use it as a competitive differentiator. Okay, when people keep warning you about something that's coming in 30 years and they tell you that they have the solution to it today, you get a little skeptical about it. Be very suspicious about it. The trade-offs you pay for post-quantum algorithms are too high at the moment for the benefits that you get from them, and it's proactively preventing something that doesn't exist from hurting you. If you're curious about it, look up Shor's algorithm. See, all right, they're already starting to do Molten Tar Monster number 3. Can you 3D print a Tar Monster award, the multis? We have a 3D printed statue. It comes in 3 different flavors. This is really getting a life of its own. Please make some pictures for Twitter. Please do. Your song is Won't Back Down. Never have, never will. Is Molten Tar Monster number 1 Craig Wright? Oh my God, he is. Wow, we have number 1 and number 3 selected. We just need to get number 2. when crypto multis happen. Come on, guys, give me something good. Give me something to end on. I had this epic rant last time. I'm in a rant mood, though. Got a favorite Rush tune? You can get all Neil Peart's on me? Wingsuit training. I was scheduled to go to Sweden at the end of this month, and I can't go. But every quarter, I've been trying to do at least 1 hour of flight time. My hope is to actually do a wingsuit jump at some point. Unfortunately, there's this thing called a global pandemic that really is slowing everything down. By the way, Dan Larimer is not a tar monster, a molten tar monster. He's very dogged guy, but Dan is not fundamentally disruptive or dishonest in that respect. He believes the things he says and he believes the things he does. We strongly, strongly disagree, and he can be he lacks the social grace sometimes, like saying my thing is an 800-pound vest that doesn't stop bullets. I mean, fuck you, man. But that's commercial disputes, and we get into it here and there. But he doesn't run a podcast and bring people down, and he's never done that in his career. He just does the things he thinks are right, and people seem to follow him. And for the most part, his products are still in market. Even BitShares is still in market. So you got to give him some credit for that. I just think that he doesn't seem to admit or acknowledge that there needs to be rigor and third-party verification above and beyond just shipping it for the products to work. The takeover of Steam is a great example of that. It's very predictable. So anyway, we wish him well, but I wouldn't put him in that same category as Craig Wright or Mr. Chico Crypto. As you can see, I'm slightly moderating these days. You gotta let the past go. What's your favorite national park? Yellowstone. Absolutely amazing place. What is your greatest fear? Flying cobras. Very terrified of them. Flying cobras are the worst. No more Pink Floyd wall hanging. Well, Pink Floyd's right there. But I replaced it with the artwork. I'll put the poster somewhere else, probably in the office. What about Mike York or whatever his name is? I see him commenting on videos like Carlito's Way. Yeah, I don't know. There's like a pack of these guys. I actually wrote their names down and sent them to our community guys. but I don't know what their thing is. And one of these days we'll look into it. But it's organized because every video we make, they comment. And they obviously are always saying negative things. It's like they're being paid or something to do it. Maybe I killed their dog or something. I don't know. Slept with their girlfriend or killed their dog or something. And past life for this one. Because it's pretty crazy to see the level of vitriol and dedication to the vitriol. Usually trolls are opportunistic and fair weather. So when times aren't so good, they dogpile. But when times are okay or average, they just kind of lose interest and scurry away. To have that level of dedication to comment on every single video for 2 years, you gotta give them a multi for that. Do I remember the mathematician, Louis? I'm sorry, I didn't get the first part of the question. Which mathematician? What did you do? Hello from Romania. I love Romania. Very good cheese. Come on, guys. The infinity. Oh well, the guy who first came up with the notion of infinity. That was around math for a long time. The person to formalize it was Georg Cantor, and he was also bipolar, and so he was committed towards the end of his life. But he did some groundbreaking work, and he even came up with something called the continuum hypothesis, which was later resolved by saying that math can't solve it, which is kind of a fucking cop out. But yeah, the whole concept of infinity. Oh yeah, remember the name of the mathematician who was against infinity? Yeah, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. God, I don't remember it. I'm gonna tweet it now when I find it. What about Thanatos Holdings? It was a holding company for some IP that I possessed. Roll it in the same category as Ravenshore. Favorite mathematician? Well, that's hard. My favorite writer in mathematics is Paul Halmos. I thought that he just was so elegant and concise. The most beautiful proofs were from Grothendieck. He was incredibly good at that. I think the most creative mathematician, probably Poincaré, was tremendously creative. Not very disciplined, but incredibly creative, and was capable of really having a fun time with concepts. Probably the most rigorous mathematician of the 20th century. I have to think about that. There were a few that were fun to read. Hilbert was certainly interesting. Very rigorous guy. Very, very rigorous. Had Bertrand Russell stayed in mathematics, I think that he could have done so much more, but he kind of got broken and went to ethics, had a much more enjoyable life. Artin, Emil Artin, phenomenal number theorist. Really enjoyed reading his work. Nathanson he's still alive, wonderful mathematician as well. Chloroquine, it'll work with 100% effectiveness within 3 days. Sure it will. No, it doesn't. Don't believe these types of things. Chloroquine is an old drug to treat malaria. I actually contracted malaria a long time ago. Take care, Justin. And we're winding down. I'm looking for a good question to end on. They did not announce that chloroquine is 100% effective against coronavirus. Nothing in the history of medicine is 100% effective, ever. Because in some cases, people get allergic reactions, even the things that cure things. You develop resistance for this medicine. Stop making things up. What's next for IOHK after Cardano? What venture would you guys like to take next? Something involving the freedom of association, commerce, and expression. One of these days. There will be a virtual conference, Steve-O. Pay attention. All right, kids. General Zod, good to see you. All right, General, I'm just about to sign off, but out of respect to the Zod, do you have a question for me? Closing question. No pressure. Come on. Yeah, chloroquine does have some bad side effects. It gave me super crazy, weird dreams. Do you still contribute to ETC? We have not made a code commit in quite some time. Is Concordium a good project? I love Lars. He's a good guy. And Yvonne Damgaard's a legendary cryptographer. It's alongside Uli Mara. Hard to fight their bona fides. And I hope that they succeed. All right, all. Well, nothing good. All right. Well, anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a heck of a lot of fun. And until next time, in Bocca al Lupo, hang in there, Italy. America, we're not too far behind you. And I hope that we can keep this going as long as we can before the great American quarantine shuts everything down. And if that doesn't happen, well, I guess we'll just have to get back to business as usual. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.